just normal. And, you know, when the show started, I was really the only character who was at that speed. And kind of as we became known for it, the whole show took on this sort of rapid fire pace. And I remember people telling me if they'd come into audition, you know, the first thing they'd get told is you have to talk really fast, like more than normal, you double your speed, you know. So I think it came partially out of our writer. She has so much to say, and, you know, she writes 85-page scripts back in the day when a normal hour show is 40 or 50 or maybe 60. So I think it just kind of took on her inner life, became the TV show.
It's funny you mentioned that you came in there as a natural fast talker and you were able to kind of adapt to the dialogue quickly, because in the book you talk about having a really tough time with one particular line of dialogue from the new series, and it's not even a fast one. There's a scene where you just need to say, "My name is Lorelai Gilmore. I'm from a little town in Connecticut." By Gilmore Girls standards, that really should be a piece of cake. Why was that so hard for you?
Well, because what was new in coming back to the show was a great deal of emotion surrounding it, and, you know, to get the opportunity to come back to something and fully appreciate what it has meant to me in my life, to hear from other people what it's meant to them, and to have been asked for so many years if we were coming back, and then here we were back. So the smallest things, like saying I'm Lorelai Gilmore and I'm from a little town in Connecticut, I didn't know that I'd ever get to say that again, and I was strangely overcome at many points in the
I guess, and also knowing that you wouldn't be doing it at all, like you wouldn't be doing this Netflix series at all if it hadn't touched enough people that would want to see it again.
Oh, that's the biggest part of it. I mean, you kind of gauge the success of something by what you hear from people, and what I had heard from people over the years was really touching. And I, as a younger actor, wasn't so purposeful in my choices necessarily. I was so thrilled to get any job. I would, you know, do whatever I could, whatever I got. But to understand now at an older age how much, you know, positive influence for the people who liked the show, I felt a real sense of pride in that, and so I owe it all to the people, and we just wanted to do something that satisfied, you know, what their hopes were.
Lauren Graham, I've had to spend a lot of time explaining to people who hear about the revival why they should care about the show in the first place, and they'll ask me, because I've seen it, you know, like I saw the whole thing, and you end up becoming a kind of Gilmore Girls ambassador. For people who have never seen the Gilmore Girls, what do you think is at the core of its appeal? Like, why are people so excited about a show that's been off the air for a decade?
Well, first of all, it's kind of a fantasy land in so many ways. It is a mother-daughter relationship like probably many of us wish we had. It's a town that is just a little more sweet and happy, and a community that is, you know, incredibly unified, and the problems all, you know, get solved. And I think television, seems to me, has gone very far in the other direction of presenting these kind of dystopian worlds, and you know, this sort of fantasy lands that are quite dark, which have their own appeal. And we stood out at the time as being, it's almost a nostalgic quality, but basically I just think it's a happy place to visit.
I spend a lot of time talking about the Gilmore Girls with my friends. Yeah, more than.
Do you have friends left?
Yeah, somehow I got 3. Yeah, we hang out in the treehouse and we talk about
Oh, that's wonderful.
and one of the things that I brought up, you know, we were talking about, you know, the decision that you guys made. I said, I still can't believe that Lorelai went back to Christopher. Now, if you haven't seen
terms of the workday, they don't allow the work days we had back then anymore for insurance reasons. The hours it took to shoot that show on film were just insane.
What are we talking here? Like, was it
easily a good day was 12 hours. A regular day was 14 hours. Frequently it was 16 or 18, and I had more than 5 20-hour days where we just watched the sun come up. It was shooting on film. It was getting that language perfect. It was doing, it's part of the style of the show is kind of a long, steady cam shot through the town, walking and talking. So many things can go wrong. And there was a learning curve of how most efficiently to do that. Plus, the two of us were in almost every scene. It took years and years for them to sort of flesh out the other characters. So it was a wonderful job, but I was tired a lot of the time. And that 7th season was such a blur. Our bosses weren't there. And then the door was closed on the show kind of so abruptly. I didn't have time to reflect on it. Once they reminded me, also with that scene we shot, it was in Paris supposedly, but it was on a back lot. Just the whole thing felt very surreal, even at the time. And so, yeah, I mean, people come up and say lines of dialogue to me that they know better than I. It was 22 episodes over 7 years, and so I guess my memory just got a little overloaded.
Have you resisted the temptation? I know since the Netflix reboot came out, I've seen on my Facebook a million think pieces about this show, about rethinking the show, analysis of the new show. Have you resisted the urge to read any of them?
I don't read anything at all if I can help it. I don't find it helpful. I'm not a big internet person. I joined Twitter at the request of the publisher of my first book, and I've enjoyed being able to communicate with fans at times, or tell them what I'm doing, or thank them for their support. But the rest of it just doesn't make me a better actor, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help me. So I'm sure they're out there, but and also you can tell, and I write about this in the book too. Even avoiding media as much as you can, people stop you in the airport and either praise or complain, depending on how they feel. I'd sort of rather just have that feedback.
How's that been going?
Good. It's been going very well. I mean, not every show is for every person, so I'm sure there are people who don't care or don't like it or whatever, but who we wanted to please were really this group of people who are the reason we're back, who loved the show, who shared it with another generation, who grew up on it, who have a sense of connection, and it's something that makes them happy. So that was the hope here, was to just give them enough of the old show. Of course it's going to change. We've all grown up, 9-10 years later, and we lost one of our key members in Ed Herman, so the show has, just because it had to, a greater playing depth, a greater emotional range, because all the generations are dealing with the loss of their dad or their husband. But generally, the kids seem happy. I'm relieved.
Alexis Bledel is your daughter, Rory Gilmore. She's now older than you were when you first played her mom, and I find that interesting because you say we've all grown up now. It can be hard for parents to accept their kids that they have grown up. Do you have that with Alexis now?
No, I mean, again, the only difference I noticed is story-wise, you have to find a reason for her to come home, because otherwise our stories are completely separate. And I thought it was, Rory was so together, and when we meet these characters, to me, where they are in life, extremely age appropriate. Even the most together high schooler and the most academic college student faces a time, probably in their late 20s or early scenes together.
But I mean, like, you would love to Laura. In the book, you tell a story about her just talking you out of a tattoo.
I mean, I guess to some degree, we still have that same dynamic. We still have, dumb ideas that she has a sort of innate wisdom regarding. But, like any mother-daughter, kind of, our dynamic really is unchanged. It's funny when photo shoots and stuff.
For 3D modeling done in Detroit, here's what he said.
We've seen him in the Super Bowl. We've seen him play at a really high level. He's 42-20 in games not coached by Jeff Fisher in his career. Yeah, I think that he's got a chance. If you put the running game around him, if you have him in an offense that is going to play to his strengths, that's why you've got Anthony Lynn there as the offensive coordinator, the guy who's going to design things, let him run the play action, let him get out and use his athletic ability. All those things would fit with what Jared Goff has done when he's been successful in his career.
Okay, I mean, put a running game around him. How many quarterbacks does this apply to? Like, is this just a throwaway statement that applies to so many quarterbacks that yeah, we get it. If he's got weapons around him, he's going to be good. Sign everyone everywhere. You know what I mean? Or is this?
Yeah, but it does seem like this coaching staff and this front office seems like they might be a little bit more interested in doing that rather than just lip service. It's actually something they want to do. They've got, Anthony Lynn, that's what he wanted to do with the Chargers, what he had done before. Then he bring in Deuce Staley, who's a former running back in the league, has a lot of respect from other players. And Dan Campbell was a guy who loved to block and they loved to get the running game going. And we know how successful they were running the football in New Orleans. I think they have the right people in place to implement it. Now do they have the personnel? We like Swift a lot, and I think bringing in Williams as well, I think that helps out. I think they are going to be focused on trying to bring a running game here, which is something that obviously the Lions have lacked for a long, long time. In Stafford's tenure, they had, 1 or 2 seasons maybe, where they had an average running game. It'd be nice to have something that was above average, but to do that, you've got to maybe get another offensive lineman and maybe have another running back to the stable.
If you think about what makes the most sense, they've got this resource in Jared Goff. How much of a resource is Jared Goff? We can debate, but they've got this resource. You may as well absolutely empty the tank, finding out if that resource is going to work. I mean, there's multiple exit ramps. There's multiple ways you can go to get to your destination of the Super Bowl. You put it into your GPS, and it gives you some choices. But here's the thing about golf is, when you put in your GPS, it says you can go this way or you can go this way, and it's 30 minutes longer. You could drive down the same road before you get to that fork and have to decide are we going to go the 30 minutes longer or the quickest route. The quickest route is Jared Goff can get it done in Detroit and you can build a winner around it. The longer route is drafting the quarterback. But they're both going down the same road for a while because you can have Goff for a bit. You can draft a quarterback, but you don't have to give him the keys to the car. Or you can roll with Goff this year, not draft a quarterback, and draft one next year. But there's a lot of flexibility with this. I don't think they've done anything that is moronic yet. This is right. I'm watching this new staff, and they are being judged by the fact that, in my view, hey, they've done nothing moronic yet.
I think you're right. They have done nothing moronic yet. I hope that they can continue this streak for a long time. I think one of the other plus sides to making the trade when they did, aside from the fact that you got it done before other people became available
I'm more focusing on the artistic side, so I may not be the best to be answering some of these questions, but yes, I would say that this is new territory for us, and as such, we are really trying to understand how best we can accomplish the goals and the tasks that we would like.
And how do you go about assessing what a digital piece of art is worth? How do you assign value?
So, it's a great question.
Downtown Detroit in the distance.
And explosive the marketplace is.
Right.
It's very difficult for anyone to predict or assess necessarily a value, other than the fact that it's how much the next person is right now willing to pay. There's really no market comps. There's no information that one could use to justify a component in the same way that the traditional art world relies on previous results and
look, everything around here is well maintained, so this isn't a decent bad area.
Critique. So this is given that the market has really developed obviously since 2017, but for the most part in the past 3 months, I would say, where this is all very new to everyone out there. And I think it's a big reliance on the artists themselves, which is again why I have decided to start with PAC in this new marketplace, in this new market, because I really do believe that PAC as a creator really captures the spirit of crypto.
Not half bad for Detroit.
Dan, let's dig into the tech a little bit more. In layman's terms, what's the technology behind NFTs? What's important to know about it?
Well, the idea is that these are stored on blockchain. So you can point to them, think of it as an asset that is parked on a ledger that everyone can see, and that's how you prove, here's my ownership, and you can also verify that it's one of a limited batch, or in some cases one of one. And I'd also just quickly want to add, although Max mentioned that the idea of NFTs for art is relatively new, it's exploding right now, that's true. NFTs are not a brand new concept, and in fact, a few years back, there was an example called CryptoKitties, which was run by the same company that runs NBA Top Shot. Those were NFTs. Those were people paying money for digital kittens that were unique, which sounds funny, but it got so popular that it actually clogged the Ethereum network, the Ethereum blockchain, because it was the transactions were so high. Now, all that said, there are also some important caveats about the tech that I think are emerging more and more recently. The idea that depending on which NFT marketplace you're using, some of those marketplaces are not storing the NFTs on-chain, as it is said, so on blockchain. There are now concerns that depending on the marketplace, it's really that startup that runs and holds your NFT, and what would happen if that startup goes under? You would lose access to your NFT. So again, the initial value proposition here is no one can take it away, no one can duplicate it, no one can steal it, I can prove I own it, but there are some recent questions that have come up depending on where you buy your NFT that put that into some doubt.
We got this email from Gerald who says, I own an original oil painting from 1946 by a major American artist. I would like to sell online using an NFT. Where do I start? So I'm not sure if this is a Max question or a Dan question, but is that what we're talking about in this space, or is it something that's specifically created for the digital world? Max?
So, there's a few different, schools of thought, I would say, and I think the opportunities here are quite endless, which is kind of what's beautiful. But in that same token, a lot of opportunities that will pop up may not be the right ones to pursue or follow. I have been exploring the idea of, how the physical art world can benefit from, an NFT. There's some technology that one could use to ascribe provenance and authenticity to pre-existing physical objects. That's the use of the technology. Now then, there's other instances where an artist can create, an NFT of that object and sell, both in the kind of understanding that where does the value lie? Does it lie in the physical work or the NFT digital work? And then there's even other ones that I've seen popping up where artists are then creating a one-for-one replica and actually splitting in terms of an NFT and actually splitting, selling the NFT to one collector and selling the physical artwork to another collector, essentially double dipping. And for me, that's a scary line to start, flirting with, because I don't fundamentally think that an artist should be, double dipping in a way.
Dan, your thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No, go ahead.
Dan, I want to hear from you on this, because I'm thinking, what would be the difference between what Gerald is asking about, and someone walking into a bookstore and just buying a print of a famous painting.
Well, first of all, what your listener Gerald is asking about, I mean, you better make sure that you actually have the ownership right to do that. I keep mentioning the example of the NBA Top Shots, but I think it's a really relevant one, because in that case, people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for an NFT that is a short video clip of a LeBron dunk. And the believers in this space who are paying say, see, I own it, and that's what's cool. I can say, look, I own this. Sure, but what do you really own? What do you have copyright to do? I can guarantee you're not allowed to rebroadcast it in some kind of commercial enterprise, because the NBA, which stamped its imprimatur on Top Shot, is still retaining its usual copyrights. So all of that said, you can't exactly just NFT anything. You can't just throw anything up and mint an NFT of something that you don't own and have the right to. We started this whole segment with the example of Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey fetching $2.5 million for an NFT of his first ever tweet, which was also the first ever tweet. That's fine, but I wouldn't be able to mint an NFT of a tweet that wasn't mine. I'd love to do it with the Yahoo Finance tweet of my interview with Drew Brees from last summer, which had 12 million views. Well, I don't own that tweet, so I can't mint that as an NFT. So that's the first thing you need to worry about ownership here. Now, as for copies and duplicates, it's another new concern. I mean,
61
this
degrees.
Case is so new, and in many ways, it feels to some outsiders and onlookers like a casino. So there's some wonderful things. There's some excitement about DRM, digital rights management, excitement about artists getting more direct royalties. Maybe now musicians can get better paid than they do from Spotify streams. But there are also some real concerns about the tech.
I'm Jen White. You're listening to 1A.
WDET is a community service of Wayne State University, a premier public research university in the heart of
Road
Detroit.
there.
Hello, I'm Anna Marie Seisling here with WDET Sasha Ryan, and you have joined us during 1A and the spring fundraiser. It's a time when we want to remind you of how essential you are in this equation.
The execs would be 3 number ones and like a Cinderella, right? Kind of just get a mix. That's because you don't want it to be all Cinderellas and people just start tuning out because they don't think it's the best teams anymore. But yeah, I can see where that would be the best scenario for ratings. I remember, was it Duke versus George Mason, or what was it?
Duke versus Butler.
Butler? I think it was, the ratings were good.
Weren't they?
Yeah, I think
it's too much.
Yeah.